I'm Carrie Dara with Grow Cedar Valley, and welcome to our Grow Cedar Valley webinar series. Today we have the leadership of our organization, our board chair and vice chair, with us to visit with all of you about Grow Cedar Valley, where we've been, where we are, and where we're pointed in the right direction. So first I'd like to introduce our board chair, Bryan Earnest, who's CEO and owner of AMPERAGE Marketing Group. And then we have Chris Fereday as our vice chair with PDCM Insurance. So welcome, guys. Thanks for joining us this morning. First, I'll just have you each both introduce yourself and your organizations and your role with Grow Cedar Valley, and then we'll get into some conversations. So why don't you go ahead, Bryan? You can start.
Yeah, great, Carrie. Thank you. It's good to be with you. I don't know about everyone else, but this is certainly an adjustment for all of us to sit here on a daily basis and talk to our computer screen all day and look at all the friends and colleagues that we know from throughout the community and in some cases throughout the country that we talk to in little boxes all over our laptops. No, I am currently serving as the board chair for Grow Cedar Valley, and I'll say this: it has certainly been an interesting year serving in this role and an interesting time in our community. And my day job is CEO of AMPERAGE Marketing and Fundraising, as you said, and it's just great to be part of this webinar this morning.
Great. Thanks, Bryan. And Chris, why don't you share a few words too, please?
Great. Thanks, Bryan. Thanks, Carrie, for having us on this morning and fostering this communication. My name is Chris Fereday. I'm president and CEO of PDCM Insurance. We are a property casualty agency located in Waterloo and in our 103rd year in the Cedar Valley. And I would say probably one of our most challenging years as an organization.
Right. As along with everybody else that's probably watching. So we appreciate that very much, both of you. I mentioned earlier before we got started about, Grow Cedar Valley, where we've been. And Bryan and his team with AMPERAGE helped Grow Cedar Valley become Grow Cedar Valley when we were formerly the Greater Cedar Valley Alliance and Chamber. And Bryan, if you would speak a little bit about that branding process and how that really has us honed into exactly where we are and where we're going. Why don't you go ahead, please?
Yeah, certainly that was a process that started, excuse me, with really listening to our community as far as what's needed from an organization at that time, the alliance that we all knew in this community, but really listening to our stakeholders of saying, what role do we need this organization to play? And overwhelmingly, we heard two things. One is, we really need help in this community in talent development, talent recruitment, talent retention, training up our talent, really focusing on talent. And we've been doing that like crazy, but also to be that convener, to bring people together. And so we heard that overwhelmingly in focus groups, in surveys, in countless opportunities of research that we needed to do. And that really laid the groundwork for a rebirth of the organization's brand. And, if you think about where we went through that, it manifested itself certainly as what people see in a new name and a new logo and a whole new look and feel to be much more contemporary. That's great. That's the window dressing piece. Gave us a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of new energy. But the core really stayed focused on economic vitality in our community and knowing that an organization like this needs to be right there on the front lines helping to lead that. And our organization has really narrowed its focus in many ways to focus on business, community, and creating opportunity. And by really defining who we are, what we do, and why we do it, when it's times like this of crisis, we know the role we're supposed to play. And there's great examples of that. The work that our Grow Cedar Valley team and volunteers are doing to bring community leaders together to face some of the challenges that we're under, whether that's a group of leaders working with Tyson, for instance, of getting our workforce back to work and getting an important part of our economy going again, whether that's still working on talent, but working on talent in a very different way of where we are today. Now it's about getting talent back to work getting them maybe perhaps trained up in new skills as we learn to work in a very different way. Working with regional partners as they're trying to figure out how do we navigate through this new economy that we're under. And then taking on efforts just to promote the Cedar Valley. It's such a great place to live and work. Um, there is no doubt this community was rocking and rolling prior to COVID-19 hitting. And you see that if you just watch any of the content that's been created under Live the Valley, you can see what a great place this is to live and work and have a business, raise your family, whatever it might be. All that is still there. The underlying framework of our great community is still all there. We're just looking forward to getting back to work and getting that story told again. So certainly the brand platform that was developed provides us that jumping off point to really tell our story. So that's kind of a long-winded answer, but I think that's really
Good one, a very good one.
But it's really why we did what we did.
Yep, absolutely. And Chris, you were part of that process the entire time also. Was there any point in going through those several weekly and bi-weekly meetings for months that you just thought, this is exactly where we should be, or this is, I mean, was an aha, we're doing this in the right way?
I think anytime that you're involved in something like that, where you're listening to the needs of your business community and your members, the ahas come really quickly, because as Iowans, we do more with less, and we need to lean on those relationships that we're involved with to make sure that we're executing. And I think when we heard our members say, this is exactly what we need at this point in time, we wanted to be able to pivot and really focus on what that deliverable looks like for them, so that they can continue to do what they do best and we can support them in that role. That proactivity is really part of, I think, what we've developed as an organization.
Absolutely. So you both hit on two terms that we've been using a lot lately, at least internally. One is the convener, the connector, which we knew was going to be an area that we would excel at because we've done it all along and we'll continue to do it. But the other one was pivot. I mean, so not only are we that convener, their connector, but we had to quickly pivot like a month ago to now we're still helping our not only investors but all businesses, but we're pivoting in a way so that their needs of talent, as Bryan mentioned, it's now not attracting and retaining talent, it's reconnecting that talent that's now on furlough or possibly laid off back into the workforce, and it may not be the same position they had before. So how does that work with our higher ed, our training facilities and that kind of thing? So I just think we've really shined in those two areas, and we were put to the test in both of those areas, just in, like I said, in the last month. So I appreciate your leadership, both of you. As a team, we've looked to you many times for guidance. We feel like we know our way and know where we want to be and want to go, but we also we're leaning on all of you to help us make sure that we're pointed in the right way. So much appreciation. What do you want to add to the workforce piece of that? I mean, I know that, so Bryan's been meeting with our creative team recently about really honing into our brand message, which, you know, we are a combined economic and community development organization. So therefore we represent the business community and the community as far as the cultural piece of it, and blend those and connect those so that we continue to create opportunities for growth. And growth might look different than it did 6 months ago or 2 months ago. But as Bryan said, we have that infrastructure. We're not going to deviate from that underlying message of connecting those two areas of our economy to continue to grow. So I appreciate that very much from you. So what else would you guess that, as far as moving forward, you know, pivoting is what we've done, what we're doing. We're including making sure that our higher ed and training facilities are working closely with us too. So what else are you seeing as far as our role in making sure that we address those areas?
You know, one thing that I think as Grow Cedar Valley, we've done a really great job of, and hopefully our business community will see, we're all getting a tremendous amount of information sent to us from a myriad of different sources, and the ability to wade through, read through, understand, and execute we're shortening that time period as Grow Cedar Valley with our resources that are available, so that folks can know and businesses can know that the information we provided is validated, it's locally relevant, as opposed to being sent from a national think tank that doesn't have relevance in the Cedar Valley. And I think that speed to execution that comes from the work that Grow Cedar Valley does, they can trust that information that we're putting out, that it's immediately usable in their day-to-day business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Go ahead, Bryan.
I think Chris makes a great point, and I think at a macro level, we're getting so much information from a national perspective every day. There you can turn on the TV and there's a press conference on. There's some change that's happening. There's lots of pundits that are talking about opening business, don't open business yet. Where are hot spots? Where are there outbreaks? We had a great call yesterday, even with our local leaders from a community health perspective with Blackhawk County, Department of Health, and there's great resources right here in our community. And if you and your business don't know where those are, Grow Cedar Valley and our website is a great place to start. Whether that's navigating things like Iowa Works and unemployment laws, there are great resources from public health. But as I think as community leaders, we're bombarded with all that information. And this week, we took the opportunity within AMPERAGE to stop for a moment and ask our own employees. We created our own internal survey to get a pulse from our employees of where are they and where are their mindset? Because while we're all eager to open up our businesses and get traction again and make sales happen and all of those things, there is also a lot of concern. And I'll say this, some of it I was even surprised. We did a survey, and I'll share 2 or 3 quick points. One of the questions was, how personally do you feel affected by the coronavirus and your own health? And we had more than 1 in 4 were either very worried or extremely worried. I was a little surprised by that. And what was more surprising is over half of the employees were very, very worried or extremely worried about the company that they work for, meaning AMPERAGE. So just knowing that the financial impact, the business impact is not something that's just short-term hurdle to jump over, but it could be something to worry about long-term. And so understanding the mindset of even your own employees before making decisions about having people return to work. And we have about 90% of our employees working remotely right now. We have a few people like myself today being in my office, but a couple of us being in the office. But we asked our employees, what's the biggest challenge you're facing in working remotely? And overwhelmingly, the number 1 and number 2 responses were social isolation and anxiety. And when you think about that, realizing that while we're all eager to get our economy going, getting that that vitality going back here in the Cedar Valley, we have genuine concerns within our workforce about returning to work. And even in our conversations last week with Tyson, they know that there's a lot of concern within their workforce about returning to work. It's one thing to hey, let's get the plant going again. We need to be producing pork. But they have genuine concerns about the wellness of their employees, their team members, the mindset of the impact that has of coming back to work. So we even asked our employees, how soon do you feel ready to come back to an office? And while I have 25% of them that are gung-ho, they'd come back right now. Generally speaking, about half of them were, probably 3 to 4 weeks, knowing where have we been over the last 3 to 4 weeks and where will we be over the next 3 to 4 weeks. But I would encourage any business out there, take the pulse of your own workforce. How ready are they mentally, physically to come back to work?
Absolutely. I think you did that too, Chris, with PDCM with your folks maybe a week or 2 ago. Didn't you do some assessment of where they're what they're feeling and where they're positioned?
Yeah, thanks, Carrie. We actually had done that as well. Our internal HR team, our HR Connect team, designed a survey to do with our agency as well, and really just connecting to find out where people's heads are at around the emotional well-being that Bryan mentioned, also what opportunities they see. We're big believers in there's opportunities in every challenge, and I think as a business we're designed to help in disasters, and so this is a unique place for us to make sure that we're utilizing, when we're all together in the office, it's easy to build on collective IQ. We're sharing ideas together, we're working together. So building those channels so that we can continue to utilize collective IQ as a business together. And I think we found ways to do that, but it was interesting to hear that from our team that in many cases in the service industry, that power is in collaborating, throwing ideas off of each other on how we might be able to best execute. And so once we were able to get that information, it helped us quite significantly be able to quickly turn on a dime and help our clients by encouraging just discussion like this that you might have in a normal day-to-day operation.
Yeah, absolutely. And we as an organization, we've known all along recovery would come. And we also knew that we couldn't start talking about it right away because there was we still had to get through some phases and stages, and there was pain. And we didn't want to minimize the fact that our businesses and our community was going through a real painful process. But we also know and that we have to be prepared for recovery. And that's just around the bend. And as you know, because we've been in conversations with many of our larger businesses and small also, but recovery is going to look entirely, your business could look entirely different than it did 2 months ago. But being open to the opportunities of what that might bring, those are going to be the conversations that are going to be exciting. Once we can get through maybe another week or so of really navigating this, we don't want to encourage any opening too soon. We want to make sure people are safe, not only employees, but customers and people that they're providing services for. But we know it will come. And I just think it's going to be our organization needs to realize that not only do we have to help guide our businesses through that process, but we also, with our operations, we used to have networking events, weekly. Now our networking events are virtual, if at all. And so what is that going to look like even in the fall as we have events, or somehow connect either our investors with other investors or with other people in their industry? So we just really have lots of opportunities as an organization to make sure that we're there for those needs. And that, again, is where the business and the community piece together continues to create opportunities. So we're excited. We're exhausted, but we're ready to be part of those conversations.
Carrie, you've been hosting these webinars for the last couple of weeks, and you've been the one asking all the questions. I'll turn that around for a minute. And Chris and I talked about kind of the health of our organizations and where we're at. How's your team doing at Grow Cedar Valley? And what are some of the things you're learning as you're all working remotely and connecting differently?
Right. And I don't know that I'm handling this perfectly either. I'm trying to stay connected with each of our team members with at least one-on-ones weekly, if not more often. We used to have a staff meeting once a month, but then we'd see each other all the time in the office. Now we have Monday, Wednesday, Friday huddles at 8:30 for a half hour to an hour, whatever's needed to understand what each of our team members is either wrestling with or celebrating, and how do we either help them get through that wrestling piece if necessary, or give the attaboys that are necessary. And there are several celebrations too. I mean, we've really unleashed a lot of our marketing efforts with Aubrey and Aaron, and all of the team together has been working on it. But those two have really been pushing it out and doing a great job. And I hear regularly from not only investors but community members who weren't necessarily part of our organization how impressed they've been with the outreach that we've been able to find as far as the audience. Just so Friday night was that tomorrow night, you'll see our first concert series that Aaron's been working on with a couple other organizations, Cedar Valley Strong. Maddie Poppy, I mean, how exciting is that to have someone who grew up here willing to come back virtually and be part of this kick off this concert series, because we know that other like organizations across the state and country are doing these kinds of things to make sure people see the positive side of what has come out of the Cedar Valley or our community. So as far as the health of our team, I can't speak for any one of them, but I've been having good conversations. I would say that there are a couple of our team members that I probably have an even better relationship with as far as communication, because we've had to carve out this time. We've had to be very intentional about making sure we understand each other and what the goals are and what we talked about, the obstacles are. But we could always be better, and I know that I could always end up opening up the communication even a little more. But I think our team feels relatively comfortable connecting with anybody else on the team. It doesn't always have to be me. I need to be there to support, and I need to make sure that we can get those doors open and those connections made. Um, but like you and your organizations, we're ready to go. I mean, we're ready to make sure that our next steps are really positive ones. So I would say, again, without speaking on behalf of everyone, I'm feeling like we're in a good place, a very good place. So this is what we wanted to make sure that we included your thoughts and your guidance. One last question, at least from me. So I know you don't have crystal balls, and I know you don't want to go on the record as being too much of a predictor, but in a great scenario situation, assuming that we don't have another outbreak or even another different one, where do you see the Cedar Valley in, let's say 2 years? I was going to say 12 a year, or 18 months, or 18 months to 2 years. Where do you see both Grow Cedar Valley as leaders of our organization, and then the community overall? Chris.
Yeah, so thanks, Carrie. I think the biggest thing as an organization that we've learned in the last year, which will prepare us for the next 2 years, is listening to our members. And so I know as Grow Cedar Valley, where I see us from 2 years from now is, rather than us telling them what we think they need, is really listening to the business community and delivering our resources. I think that we've learned that in the last 2 years. And I think in the next 2 years, it's even going to become more critically important that we deliver, and kind of the speed to the edge and the way that we're able to deliver that. And certainly your team is doing that right now. The Cedar Valley is incredibly strong. And I think if you fast forwarded 45 days ago or 60 days ago and told us this is where we'd be at, I think we'd all be a little bit stunned. But we're resilient. And I think the part I love about being in the Cedar Valley and in Iowa is watching companies really respond to that challenge, whether it's allowing their workforce to do different volunteer opportunities, allowing and pivoting to make masks, to make hand sanitizer. Companies are smart and entrepreneurial, and they're executing on that. And I think that type of commitment to day-to-day profitability and growth in the community is going to allow for us to rebound. It's going to be a tough road to hoe. I don't think anybody can sit here and say the next 18 to 24 months aren't going to provide some challenges, but I do think that as a community, we are one that always rises to meet those challenges and make sure that we're continuing to do the right things.
Absolutely. Thank you. And in closing, how about you, boss?
Well, as always, either I take Chris's thunder or he takes mine. So we work pretty well together that way. I think the one thing I would add, as far as I think a focus of industry within our community, is if anything during this time, the importance of how technology plays a role with our society today. And thinking about, we have some great startup companies in our community that are based in the technology area. And I continue to look at that to accelerate even faster. I think two things, and I go back to what we heard from our stakeholders at the very beginning about talent and about being that role of that collaborator and convener. On the talent side, I think it's continuing to train up our staff, whether those are things led by Grow Cedar Valley or in partnership with Grow Cedar Valley, whether it's things like Leader Valley, whether it's programs like Leader and Me in our schools, whether it's working with our other education partners, Hawkeye and UNI and Wartburg and others in the region. We have such great partners in higher ed, but all the way through from K-12 and beyond, continuing to train up our workforce and be a place that companies want to come because we have exceptional talent here. And I think that's a key piece. But I think we have more work to do in our role as being that collaborator and convener. We've made great strides to work together as one Cedar Valley, whether that's our cities working together, whether that's our regional economic development partners working together, whether that's even, as I mentioned just now, our schools working together, our partners in higher ed, also our healthcare delivery system. I think within this community, if anything, this crisis has shown that we have to really look at how we're caring for our community from a healthcare delivery perspective. We have great partners in that, in both Mercy One and Unity Point, but continuing to push that to really be maybe a leader within the state of Iowa of how we can even do that better. And I think those are some of the things that we'll be on the front lines of doing over the next couple of years. And we have a lot of work to do, and certainly up for it.
Yep, very much, and excited to be up for it. So thank you both. I know you carved out this half hour for us, and we intentionally tried to be done by 11 for those who want to listen to the governor's briefing, which after yesterday's proclamation probably be higher interest to hear exactly what that means and what it is. And I know you saw my buddy walking by in the background here. I'm just glad that my dog didn't announce the UPS guy at the same time, so it could have been total chaos. That working remotely has been, it's been great in many respects because we become more efficient and we get things done in a different way. But there are some other things that you need to be sure to be aware of too. So I saw you guys smile when you saw him go by in the back.
It's always great to see Frank, and it's part of the new normal.
It is.
For all of us, working with our own staff where little ones show up on camera or a dog is barking or whatever, and we're human, and it's part of life the way it is now.
It is, and we're getting work done. So again, thank you both. For those of you watching, if you want to tune in next Tuesday, we'll be visiting with Paul Kinghorn and Amy Dutton from the University of Northern Iowa on overcoming the stress of reopening your business. What does that look like? Because there's a lot, as you mentioned earlier, there's anxiety. So we want to help relieve some of that. So please tune in next Tuesday again at 10:30. And for those of you who are still on and want to hop over to the governor's Facebook page, you can see what she has to say today. So thank you all. Take care. Have a great weekend.